Hello, I'm Chrysopolis, and today I'm going to do a video. So here we are. So here's a collection of my DS games alongside this beautiful backdrop of a bit of my skirting board, just in keeping with the title. So first one is 42 all-time classics. It's a collection of various traditional games. You've got board games, card games, pub and parlour games. Both me and my mum have played quite a bit of this. It's really fun. It's got some unusual games that you don't normally see here, such as shogi, the Japanese chess variant, and koi koi as well, which is absolute laugh. Ace Attorney Apollo Justice, I've not played that yet. I've actually got the Ace Attorney trilogy on the 3DS, and I'm working my way through that until I get to Apollo Justice eventually, which this copy's pretty much redundant anyway because I've since bought it on 3DS, so I didn't think it was coming out at the time, so I decided I'll get that while it's there in CEX. So yeah, that's that one. Miles Edgeworth Investigations, which is one of the Miles Edgeworth spin-off titles of Ace Attorney. I'll be playing that at some point as I work through. I don't know exactly where in the story it comes, but yeah, that should be fun. Another Core 2 Memories. I bought that for, I think it was like £2 at a local game shop. Yeah, it looks quite interesting. Had a read of the back of it. I've had like one quick go at it so far, and I don't really remember it. I think she starts on a boat or something. Yeah, that's one I ought to have gotten around to at some point. Now this is brilliant. This is Bangai Your Spirits. You play as a mecha. It's very sort of short, very fast action-packed levels, some cracking dialogue, and you can also sort of, I think, design your own custom levels, and they're shared by this weird sort of sound thing. It's a good laugh. I'm not selling it very well, obviously, but it's absolutely brilliant. If you spot it, get it. You'll enjoy it. Next is Devil Survivor 2, one of the Shin Megami Tensei titles. Came out very late in the DS's life, at least over here. Kind of a bit redundant because the updated sequel's available on 3DS, but no, I fancied getting it. I didn't have a 3DS at the time, so I thought I'd quite enjoy that. It's sort of RPG with tactical elements as well, like turn-based stuff. Yeah, I've played quite a bit of it actually. It's good fun. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I really enjoyed the series from Full Metal Alchemist Dual Sympathy. Brotherhood is the name of the series, which is absolutely brilliant. If you only watch one anime, watch that one. It's fantastic. I've not played this yet. I believe it's the only Full Metal Alchemist title that actually came out over here, and yeah, I fancied getting it. It was only, I think, a couple of quid in CX or something, or something along them lines. Yeah, I'll have to do that at some point. Golden Sun Dark Dawn. I have absolutely no idea why I bought this. I've never previously been into the Golden Sun series. Yeah, some sort of bizarre whim at the time led me to get it. I think it's because I'd read something about it and I thought, oh, that sounds quite interesting. As you do. But I have actually had one fleeting go at it so far, just to get a sort of a bit of a feel for it. Yeah, it's your standard sort of RPG, fantasy-esque type fare, I suppose, if you enjoy that sort of thing. Honeycomb Beach. I actually had my first quick go at this only a couple of days ago. I like my puzzle titles, and this one seemed decent, so yeah, you get a series of boards with hexagons on it, and you have to sort of like flip them all over so they're all the same colour, basically, and you get a few tools here and there, like certain types of things you can put on the board. Yeah, it's fairly straightforward, fairly simple little puzzle game. Really good fun. Next is Inazuma 11-2 Blizzard, which it's actually, I think, one of the very last original DS titles to come out over here. I picked it up in the erstwhile Granger games for, I think it was a £5 at the time, and it'd been sitting there for years and years, and I thought, you know what, let's give it a go, why not? I played a good chunk of it. It's quite decent. RPG series with some action football elements. A little bit fiddly, but nothing I couldn't get used to. Voice acting's a little bit questionable, but it's passable. Yeah, it's very solid, very, very enjoyable title. Ooh. Next up is Jump Ultimate Stars, which it's an import title, obviously. Never came out over here. It's all manner of Shonen Jump characters, all brought over into one massive crossover and beat the proverbial out of each other. Great, great fun. I mean, obviously, dialogue-wise, there's a bit of a language barrier, but, I mean, you don't really need to know to be able to actually play it. It's good fun. It's brilliant. I enjoyed it. Mario and Sonic the Olympic Games. I absolutely adore the Olympic Games titles. I've got most of them, and I played most of them quite a bit. So this is the first one I got. Yeah, decent selection of Olympics-based single-player and multiplayer mini-games. Yeah, very, very enjoyable. This is the Metroid Prime Hunters demo, which came with my DS. For quite a long while, it was the only actual DS title I had, so played through it quite a few times. There's like one single-player level, some sort of AI deathmatchy type thing, I think. Yeah, it's alright. So far, it's the only Metroid Prime thing I've actually played, even though I've got the trilogy on the Wii, which I really ought to get round to that, actually. Oh, this is an underrated gem. This is Moon. It's by the same people who made Dementium the Ward back in the day. It's a lo-fi first-person shooter game, which for a DS game, it's actually very impressive. Yeah, it's got brilliant atmosphere. Got right into it, certainly. I was actually looking for this for best part of a year, I think, after I read a review of it in N-Gamer. Eventually found it in temporary games shop in Spennymoor, of all places. Really, really good. Can't recommend it enough. Next, this is 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. One of the best, if not the best, visual novels on the DS. I was going to say GameCube there. Yeah, I've played this from start to finish, incredibly, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's gripping. It's got all sorts of like point and click elements, puzzle solving. Yeah, I like my mystery stories, and that absolutely hit the spot. I've made a start on the sequel, but I've not got very far into it, but I tell you what, that's brilliant. It's part of a double pack now, I think, on the on Steam, and I think on a few other console formats as well. Yeah, definitely look that one up. This is Pokemon Heart Gold version, which I bought, as you can see, for $34.99. I got that from Blockbuster not long after it came out. In fact, I just got a new job at the time, and I bought that using part of my first week of pay, which was quite nice. I've played a good solid amount of this. Absolutely fantastic. It's one of the very best Pokemon titles out there, by quite a long way, I think. Still got the Pokewalker in it, which is somewhere in the box, although I think it needs the batteries changing. Yeah, I mean, cannot recommend it enough. Costs an absolute fortune now to get, even without the Pokewalker, unfortunately, but very, very solid. I'm very pleased I got that. Bought Pokemon White on the day of its launch, played it solidly for about 4 days and then sort of put it down, never went back to it. Really should come back to it at some point, as with quite a few of my titles, obviously. I'm trying to remember where I got to. I think, well, because I bought it early, I was able to get Victini from the pass I was able to download. So I think that's as far as I got on this, and that's where I need to get back to. So I think the third gym, something like that. But yeah, it's a solid game so far. certainly. This is Project Rub, which I got, well, it was on clearance in Asda for £1, as you can see. I'd been after it for a while, decided to pick it up while I had the chance. I think there was about 2 or 3 just sort of left over, dumped on the counter, so I thought, you know, might as well. Yeah, it's a good, solid set of mini games. Completed it in a weekend. It's not very long at all. Yeah, it's alright. Next is Race Driver Create and Race. I absolutely love this. Probably one of the most underrated games in the Toker / Race Driver / Grid series. Yeah, there's a bunch of like real world circuits, real world racing series on there. Of course, the main feature, of course, is that you can build your very own circuits, which I spent oodles of time doing. Yeah, so I've got some of my own classics on there, which I've named the Shock and Ring, Stalk, just a few other ones that I've just made up. Yeah, really, really good fun. I still dig it out every so often, actually. Really enjoy that. Resident Evil Deadly Silence, which is based on, well, in fact, it's a port, in a way, of the original Resident Evil, with a few extra sort of puzzles which take advantage of the DS's capabilities, I suppose. Yeah, it comes complete with terrible dialogue and all, and the terrible opening. Yeah, it's good fun. I enjoyed Resident Evil back in the day, and this was no different. Managed to get to one of the endings in the end. I think there's a bunch of unlockable stuff in there as well, but I couldn't be chewed. But yeah, if you fancy a decent port of the original Resi, that's a solid recommendation. Next up is Scrabble 2007 edition. I like a good game of Scrabble, and yeah, this is a very solid version of it. Yeah, it's Scrabble, isn't it? You get a set of like computer opponents to play at varying difficulty levels. I've thought at one point that you could basically play multiplayer like using just the one system, but for some bizarre reason you can't, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, it's Scrabble, you know what to expect, and yes, you can play some rude words on it, which is always a bonus. Scribblenauts, that's absolutely fantastic. Any game in the Scribblenauts series, get it, it's fantastic. Yeah, basically there's a series of puzzles and you can write the name of literally anything you can think of, just about, and a version of that will appear in the game, and basically you have to conjure up whatever items you can that you think will solve the puzzles. And well, there's a little sort of sandbox area at the start of the game as well, where you can just invent things to your heart's content. Well, not invent, summon, well, you know what I mean. But that's really, really good. Something else that's really good is Solar Robo Red the Hunter, one of my favourite games on the DS by quite a long way. It's gorgeous looking, quasi-futuristic, well, not futuristic, steampunk, I guess, is the word you're looking for there. It's got steampunk elements, big sort of airships in the sky, floating islands. Oh, it's lovely. It's got a brilliant story as well. Loads of bits and pieces to do, action adventure stuff. I really, really enjoyed it. Played it to completion, including the DLC. I'd really like to see it get re-released, but it's looking quite unlikely at this point. But if you ever do track this down, it's fantastic. It is by the same people that made Tail Concerto back in the day, which I understand was also quite nice, but I've never played that. Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. It is a bit crap, to be honest. I kind of get what they were going for, but it was executed terribly. The music is mostly atrocious. I do like the way the story sort of developed. It put me in mind of Sonic Battle a little bit in terms of sort of world building and lore and such like that. But it really is not very good. I can't recommend that one. Sonic Colors, the third DS platformer in the Sonic franchise. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's a really solid game. Good bit of platforming action, introduces the Wisps. Yeah, it's a very good counterpart to the Wii title, certainly. If you enjoyed Rush and Rush Adventure, more on them later, you'll like that. And speaking of Sonic Rush, there it is. So this is the first game in the Rush series where Blaze the Cat is playable. Yeah, it's got some good bit of platforming action. Whoa, excuse me. And absolutely banging soundtrack, of course, by Hideki Naganuma. Yeah, it's a solid game. Comes highly recommended. Really enjoyed that. Okay, last few now, and well, you knew this one was coming. Sonic Rush Adventure, the second Sonic Rush game, includes quite a bit of the seafaring action, pirate ships, oceans, the works, which I quite like. It's a nice little aesthetic. Yeah, very decent soundtrack as well. I quite enjoyed that. I mean, pretty much all the Sonic games have decent soundtracks, so that's more or less a given. Yeah, very solid game, nothing wrong with that. One of the most underrated games by far on the DS, Soul Bubbles. If you ever see a copy of this, get it. It's fantastic. Can't recommend it enough. It's a cracking little puzzle game. You use the stylus and the microphone to sort of create bubbles, blow them about, and transport all manner of these little sort of fairy-type things around the place. Really, really enjoyable. Absolutely brilliant. It's the only game, I think, so far that's been released by Maker's Leap, the studio that released it. Absolutely no idea what's happened to them. They seem to have vanished off the face of the earth. If they ever do make a return, I eagerly await whatever they got next. Next is Super Princess Peach, which is a sort of a role reversal title in which, for a change, Mario gets kidnapped and Peach has to rescue him. See what they did there. Yeah, it's fairly accessible, easy to get the hang of, and yeah, I played quite a bit of it. Really enjoy it. Well worth tracking down. Super Scribblenauts, the sequel to Scribblenauts. It's basically Scribblenauts, but now you can put adjectives on it as well, so you can add all sorts of colours and qualities and behaviours. Yeah, it's basically a step up from Scribblenauts, which was already an excellent game. Yeah, can't recommend that enough, as with any of the Scribblenauts games. Ultimate Mortal Kombat. It's basically a port of Mortal Kombat, well, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 to the DS. I have never managed to complete an arcade ladder on any version of Mortal Kombat 3 to date, despite my best efforts. The AI is just broken. I guess that's all I can say. Yeah, I'm not very good at it. But on the plus side, it does also have puzzle combat from Mortal Kombat Deception, which I quite enjoy playing that from time to time. Decent little package if you're into your Mortal Kombat. And finally, The World Ends With You, or TWEWY, as some people call it. I've had one fleeting go at it in which I had a limited amount of success. Yeah, it looks stylish as hell. Looks like it has a decent story to it. That's one I ought to get round to someday. Simple as that. And that's it. So just one last thing. If you're wondering how I managed to get the camera into this position, this is how. So I got one of my old storage crates out the bottom, stack of books, stack of my old Clubland CDs for balance, and that is actually a set of 4 lots of Bucks Fizz and other alcoholic beverages I got, I think 2 Christmases ago, never been opened, using that as a weight. There you are. Alright, down to the last few now, and this is of course Sonic Rush Adventure. I mean, you knew this